We want to build something which brings a lot of impact to future, which will make a phenomenal change to how people are going to connect and what it means to be socially connected. The content is the one that fuels all the economics of the world. So anything that you post, from a tweet, from a text to a photo to video, all of that information is churned to a very simple question: what can I sell this person? There are evidences that were shown that TikTok's algorithm can influence a generation's thought process as per geographies. It's very easy to fine-tune those algorithms to a smaller extent to make a generation think that this is a better way to progress. And you will end up with a whole generation thinking that this is the right way to progress rather than that way.
A Sankarshan Joshi trip.
One of the best things about hosting this podcast is meeting people like you. It's been a learning process, and I absolutely love hosting this. So I am having guests after a really long time. It's like I took a sabbatical from doing this podcast. So we are back finally. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Sankarshan Joshi trip. On this episode, we have Pavan. He's a CEO and founder of Yapt. Thank you so much for making time and being here. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sankarshan. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to be part of this journey of yours, the trip of Sankarshan. It's nice. And I think this is my first podcast that I'm doing with people. So I'm also quite excited.
It's your debut.
Yes, it's my debut podcast.
That's really, really nice. Yesterday we had a fun conversation, like an intro conversation where we got to know each other. So it's your first time here, and for the people listening, I really want them to get to know you better. So could you do the honor of introducing yourself and what Yapt is,
Yeah, right. So hi guys, and thanks a lot first of all. Now I'm Pavan Vadavalli. I'm quite a techie person, a geek in technology side. I have been my work professional journey spanned across Australia, Singapore for out of 14 years, 15 years. I've been working as a production engineer, sales architect, technical architect, enterprise architect for a while. And then after a lot of work around in the overseas, I moved to India the last 4 years, 3 years, 3.5 years. I started building multiple products. We built one product for Australia FinTech. Then I landed upon Yapt, which was a very painful problem that I had. I'm quite a social person, but using the social platforms was very challenging as they grew. And that's when I started thinking about solving this issue. And the last 1.5 year, I have been part of this incredible journey of building Yapt, talking to people, trying to build a vision for future. So we are a four members team right now. We are very technical. We want to build something which brings a lot of impact to future, which will make a phenomenal change to how people are going to connect and what it means to be socially connected. So Yapt has been a big influence on me, on my thought process, on the way I look at things from a social context, and what reality is about the vision statement into a product. So it's been an incredible 1.5 year journey that we have done.
I think the best part about Yapt or what you're doing is the problem statement behind it, right? So I think that everyone who's active on social media right now, or at least like moderately on social media, knows a lot of problems associated with it, right? It's like it's a problem that everybody knows, but like nobody talks about it or does something towards working towards it, right? So with Yapt, you're trying to build a new social media platform. Like in literal common terms, that's what you're trying to do, right? So like what aspect about social media that you found problematic that inspired you to start Yapt?
Yeah. So it all started when I started uploading. I was a general Facebook user like many of us. So around 5, 6 years ago, when I was in Singapore, I just started uploading my family photo into the Facebook, and then just it spotted in my brain at that point of time that where does these photos go? In what hands does this go? Where does this valuable content of mine go? And I started looking at it more and more, and then I stopped. Then I instantly, after 2 months of investigation on what happens all to this social media, how the money engine works, how they work, I stopped. I deactivated my Facebook account then straight away. And then I tried thinking, being a technical guy, I saw that having an ownership to your content and trying to be in a very uh, trying to be what we can be in real life social on a social network is not something technically challenging. It's something about how the current social networks have been built. So I started realizing that there's a friction in that area. How we in real life, how do we socialize with people, the natural barriers that we observe between the people, and the kind of harmony that we have in a natural social life. You don't have that in the real social, in the network, in the social networks that we have. And the contention about where does our content go and how do I handle that content to myself, and the photos, where do they reach? Those are a long open questions. They were not the questions that were raised yesterday or it had in my mind at that point of time. There were long open questions since a very long time, and nobody bothered to answer it. Thinking, oh, what do we do about it? Being a technical guy, I realized that it is not such a big problem to solve this, but it's about trying to build a platform with that vision, with that specifications. In that sense, I spent the next 6 months in trying to see being social is always a headache. It's a lot of not just from a building perspective, taking it to the people, explaining to the people is a big challenge. Now then I realized, why do we take that challenge? Let's try to see if we can bring the same solutions to the same problem statements using the existing social networks. For example, maybe we can build a small wrapper of content ownership on Facebook, or maybe we can build a small wrapper of personalities and bring some harmonial social connections on the existing platforms. And what I realized is that it's not possible. It's just that they don't want to do it, because every aspect of letting go the control of user content, or letting the network be a bit more harmonious, letting the people of similar personalities be connected together is actually a problem for the network itself. See, it will reduce in the network conversations, it will reduce in the content movement, it will reduce in the ability to churn user data. So these decisions are not technical. These decisions are not something that the networks can't do. They didn't want to do it because they all drive their financials behind us.
Okay.
That's how they were built. So I realized that after 6 months of struggle in trying to reuse existing networks to build these kind of solutions, I realized that it's not possible, because they they completely took away this idea because they don't want to do
Okay.
it. So that's when I
Okay.
started building. It's worth to build a network from scratch and try to build it in such a way that uh, how real life social works, first of all, and the best practices that we do in real life social. Let's try to bring it into the social networks, and the principles of content ownership, the principles of where our content goes to. For example, years ago, we used to store all our valuable content in our physical photographs and everything, right? Albums. Even if we go to many houses, we have big albums of our kids and that stuff. Now, where do the content go? We don't keep that in the public forum for everybody to see, right? We keep them safe in our safe houses, and then when people come into our house, and when we know that these people are someone that we can show it, we go and take it up to them. Now, how can we give that kind of independence and selective nature in existing socials? It's pretty much not possible today. I mean, these are the very simple real life socials that we have experienced in real life, but they were completely taken away from us.
So content ownership is something that you find as problem, right? Like in the sense, whatever, I think this is something that even I didn't give a thought. And I think most of the people who are listening to the podcast might have also not given the thought. Like when I put a photo on Instagram or when I put a photo on Facebook, I'm putting it on my profile, but the ownership of that picture is with Facebook or Instagram, right? Can you elaborate more on this? Like, I think one of the core values that you've been talking about Yapt is that content ownership is with the user. Like, if I upload a picture on Yapt, that means the ownership and the full control of the picture is with me. But on Instagram or Facebook, I can put the photo, I can edit the caption, I can delete the photo if I want. So technically, I feel like I am in ownership, or at least I thought that I know I own that post or picture. But in the pursuit of you explaining your value of Yap, this, can you elaborate more on this? Because I don't think
Right.
people are aware of
So,
this.
right. So today you might upload your content to various social networks, but where does it get stored? It gets stored permanently in their storages, right? That's where they are stored. You might try to delete it, but and then you might try to. There are a couple of options that were given for you as a user to download all that content, keep it in your keep it for example, there was a time when people thought that after the TikTok was banned, maybe Instagram will be banned as well, maybe. So people started looking at a way to download all their content, and they submit a request, and 2 to 3 days later they will have a zip file to download. It doesn't carry that the content somewhere has been deleted, or there is no clear instructions of what happens to it. Now the real kind of content ownership comes from the point where your content is actually stored in your own storage, right? If I say that you own a photo album, and it says, if you say that that is album somewhere else and it is being managed by somebody else, it doesn't really translate that ownership. Now we
Right.
are the first one to bring in the concept of bring your own storage to social. What we are trying to say is that it's a completely different technical perspective and an experience for our users, that hey guys, you have a cloud storage, Google Drive, etc. We want to bring a transparent storages to it. You have a storage, right? So bring it to us. You give us a permission to store your content, and from that point all your content are with you, is completely with you.
Hmm.
Now, so once you have that ownership, the biggest difference between using app and any other social networks is that you can take your content with you and completely disconnect your network and go away straight away. There is nobody, there is no question to ask, because the
Hmm.
storage is owned by you. It's like your photo doesn't go anywhere, but it goes into your own briefcase of storage. We
Okay.
use cloud storages for it. We use if the people are into cloud storages, they can bring their own account and give permission to us. In a sense, we created a framework where content storage is very similar to what we used to do earlier. We take your photos and keep it in your house, and you show it to the right people. So we are the first one to introduce bring your own storage. You have your own storage, bring it to us. But this phenomena is not existing in the world right now in a predominant way. So we also support people don't have cloud storages. We support what we call as YMCS, Yapt Managed Cloud Storage. We create the same flexibility. We give you access to your storage, and you don't need to Yapt for it. You don't need Yapt to download your content. You just go get your content and say, hey guys, I'm done with Yapt. I don't want to do it.
Hmm.
So that kind of ownership is what we want to really provide to our user experience. That we
Hmm.
want to relinquish the control of holding on to somebody's content. So today, social networks cherish in that point that they control the user content. They cherish the point that they control the content in their storages. We want to relinquish it. We want to give back the control to the user. It's a brand new technical experience, and I think this is something that is going to happen in the next decade. This is going to dramatically change the way, not just on the social side, but on other domains as well. Your health records, your banking records, your financial records, all that storage will no longer be stored in big companies data, but they will come to you and it will be stored in your own storage. So in
Okay.
that sense, we are trying to create a completely new phenomena in social. So
Hmm.
that's pretty much what we want to do on storage side.
So,
uh,
Pavan, sorry to cut you off here. I I post a picture of me on Instagram. Why should I care if Instagram owns that picture or if that picture is on the database? So let's say I have heard this people say, and currently, right, if my data is being monitored, if Google monitors my data, why should I care? Like, I
Correct.
want to hear this answer from you because you've been in this space for quite some time. And one of the thing why I wanted to talk to you was because of, like, even though apt is the solution, i I want to dig more in the problem, like, I think that is the one of the reason why I got super curious to have you here as well. So yeah, coming back to the question, why should I care if social media platforms own my content?
Right. So today, as of now, the content is the one that fuels all the economics of the world. Right. So that content that you write, the simple statement that you write, the story that you write, the image that you post, is the one that drives the economic factors and the related engines of the whole of these networks. There are a bunch of engineers who are sitting there who are actively looking at that content, trying to understand what's your mindset in posting it. If you are posting it in kind of need for something, if you are posting in kind of ask for something, or is it something that we can, and fundamentally it all boils down to one simple aspect: what can I sell this person? So anything that you post, from a tweet, from a text to a photo to video, all of that information is churned to a very simple question: what can I sell this person? And that's where the users are ending up. You are right, there are many situations that happened in the last decade, whether it's Cambridge Analytica, whether it's data leaks, whether it's loss of user information, whether it's loss of valuable information. At the end of the day, privacy is something that people would love to have as an add-on, secrecy as an add-on, not com- not not losing the flexibility of a network and experience, and also the charges for it, right? So no social network today will succeed when they start to put charges on the users right now, because that content is free. But at the end of the day, there is also a problem on the financial side of it. So the problem statement remains that what happens to your data is more or less transparent to you,
Hmm.
but this data is actually the engines for all these companies, the billion-dollar companies that are running into. And you see that the people are trying to make some pieces out of it using the creator economy. People are trying to say, you know what, if these companies are gaining money, why not I gain the money as well? So they started advertising. For example, YouTube videos now started having embedded advertisements in themselves. So they're thinking that, okay, YouTube is making money, why not? So in as a self promotion, as an inbuilt promotion. So there is a lot of economics that goes behind it, and everything that you do translates to what you can be sold, what can be sold to you. And the problem becomes much more invasive, the problem becomes much more problematic when you try to involve groups of your friends, when the data is exploited to an extent that they might realize that you have a political opinion which is on bias state, and let me try to pull this candidate from X position to Y position. Or you might have a bias to product, and let me show the person much more multiple posts, so that, you know what, instead of buying Y product, he can buy the X product.
Hmm.
So it's not just like you. The most important aspect of what happens to you is that it's completely transparent to you, and the psychology involved in this churning of data really translate to a stage where you are not even aware that you are being influenced.
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the big problem is that you are not aware of it. So automatically you will see that this person is having an influence on this product. Now let me try to drive it to a stage where we will sell the X product for them. Or, you know what, we hear that this friends and this there is a chance that this person might want to have this kind of a vacation or this kind of a package, let me try to sell it to. In that sense, your choices and your ability to make an informed decision is coming down,
Yeah.
and your political opinions,
Yes.
your thought process are being manipulated. It might look very simple at the top, but it's a very big iceberg at the bottom, and it
Yeah.
can dramatically influence a generation's mindset altogether. There are evidences that were shown that TikTok's algorithm can influence a generation's thought process as per geographics.
Mm.
So the thought process of how do you look forward on, because TikTok is one of the most influential platforms for the younger generation, and it's very easy to fine tune those algorithms to a smaller extent to make a generation think that this is a better way to progress, and you will end up with a whole generation thinking that this is the right way to progress rather than that way. For an education, instead of replacing education, try to do something else. Or instead of science, replace it with entertainment versus science, or truth versus false. So most of them are transparent to this generation, and its impacts are quite high.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, I
so the
think
last,
those two.
sorry, go ahead.
I think those two are the major problems, right? Like, I think before you proceed, I just wanted to state that first thing was like social media influencing your decision making and being helping you create your own bias, right? uh, I think that is not happening there. Like, social media has a bias and that is being rubbed onto you. So it
Right.
that is one problem. And the second thing being, you talking about how social media could be TikTok, Instagram, anything, how it's influencing a generation, making it think that, like, something is cool, seek this or be this. So I think those two things, right? I just wanted to state these two things so that we can come back and then discuss more about this. So yes, that's all I wanted to say. Please continue.
So when I realized that, I think the social dilemma, the documentary social dilemma, put it in a very nice way. All of this stuff, not going into the documentary right now, but these problem statements are very clear now. When I looked at the kind of hesitation that I had from the very simple point of updating, adding a post to Facebook about my family, and then trying to drill into these problem statements and come to a conclusion about that, if you want to solve this kind of problems, the only way in which you can solve it is to try to build something new in a nascent way with a clear vision. See, when these platforms are built, the vision is very clear that, what, this is how we are going to harm, this is how we are going to get the user traction. Be it Facebook, which started with user traction based upon who is hot and who is not. Be it Instagram, which started with the mindset that we are going to make people look beautiful all the time. People look beautiful and happy all the time. Or TikTok, we want to ensure that people are entertained all the time. So there is a very specific USP for each of the product, right, with which they started. So they start selling this, and the next step is to create a large amount of user traction, and from the user traction harness their data, and then the advertisement platform kicks in. So this is a very standard pipeline of social products for the last 2 decades. There is no change in it. The only change that we have seen is that from sharing between people, which started with Facebook, to text with Twitter, to photo with Instagram, to a short videos with TikTok. So you can see that the basic pipeline, the thought pipeline, is the same. The only thing that changed is a different way of content. The content types has changed a bit. The ability to hold people's attention has changed a bit. That's it. But the thought process is the same. So what I thought is that the problems are persisting since 2 decades. The thought process of these platforms for the 2 decades hasn't changed anything. Now, trying to solve this problem with the existing platforms is not possible. So the right way to solve this problem is to think differently and start from scratch.
Mm.
If I ever given a chance, being an architect and being a solution architect, if we are given a problem statement, and we often go into state where, okay, let's try to do this problem from the way it should be solved properly. And then when I started with this, and I started looking at multiple problem statements across the board, be it the problem of handling your content by yourself, be it the problem of being part of a network where you are hesitant to post. Now look at yourself on the kind of followers that we have across Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. At some point of time, once you reach to a stage, you can't be who you are, right? So let's say if you are on Facebook and you want to share something that is a bit personal on it, it will create a lot of hesitation for you, because when you look at the crowd, there will be people that absolutely you have zero idea about, or maybe you haven't been touched for a long time, or maybe these people are completely different, and thinking that this kind of content will go to them will create a kind of hesitation for yourself, right? So I started looking at these individual problems, and you know what, I need to have, and then the simple question came to my mind: how do I do it in real life? People, the social networking of the people is not started because Facebook was started, right? Humans have been socializing for from the point of the origin of the humans itself. That socialization is one of the reasons why human evolution happened. And the question comes out, how are we doing it? And that became the fundamental point of how humans socialize in the harmonious way, how humans are ability to work with each other, how the humans are perceived by the other, and that comes with human personas. And the personas became one of the pillar points of YAPT in which we are trying to solve it. And we try to look at the problem of content ownership and try to bring a technical solution to it, which we foresee as a big impact in the future. There are other big bottle problems that we are trying to solve it in the next 6 to 8 months, which are going to bring in another radical change in the way social works, the way people works with the feeds. And fundamental point is that we want to give the control back and choice back to the users of social. Try to be try to have a real impact on social means that people should have a real impact. People should be conscious about their decisions. It should be a choice. It's not enforced. The problem is that every social network today enforces their decisions onto the people. Now we want to take it back. We want to give the control back to the users, and they can make any informed choice. All the choices that they make are an informed choices on YAP. So, so building YAP was a very challenging, because at one point of time I know how difficult it is to build a social. But on the other side, if I look at the problem statements, I never thought that solving those problem statements can be done by an existing social. You have to relook at it from scratch altogether, and that's how YAP came into existence in all that thought process.
Right. Few minutes back, we were talking about social media creating a bias, right? So I think that one of the crucial features of being a human is making decisions, right? So, and we, as much as we feel like we are in control and we are making the decisions, there are so many factors that have been influencing us from the dawn of time.
Right.
There has always been something that has always been influencing. And few decades back, marketing, selling ads, and what companies sold on TV, like for example, Complan. If you drink Complan, it makes you taller. It's a
Exactly.
crap. Like, how can drinking or like like putting something in your milk and drinking make you taller? Maybe there could be a vitamin which could help you get taller. Like, they just take and they just sell it, right? And
Exactly.
selling and marketing has always been like, we always get influenced into buying one product over the other. So that has always been the case, and especially with social media, right? Politically it may be, or like subconsciously there are so many things that drive us into making a decisions, right? And social media influence that, multiple factors. Like, if 10 people say that one thing is right, even though I feel the opposite thing, I tend to change how I think, because that 10 people think that something is right. So in a lot of sense it influences our decision, right? And that has been a problem.
Yeah, see that's the that's the one of the Cambridge Analytica's output was to take the people who are on the wall or who are still on the thought process and make them influence them in such a way that they feel that the other option is much better than the first option. So see, marketing, like you said, marketing sales are trying to influence people, and those techniques have evolved and became more and more fine-tuned in the last 2 decades. Be it the search engines, it started with search engines, and then the social media has become kind of a rocket growth in that whole space. Search engines, and then the social media companies, and then their ad-based revenue models. they became the rocket fuel for them to grow in that area. Influencing, definitely, if see, bias and influence people, every person can't take a decision for everything in a single in a whole way, right? So let's say if you want to watch a movie, uh, and you definitely pick up the opinion of your friend whom you think is very much aligned with your personality or your choices. And if, let's say, there is another friend who is on the opposite side of your thought process, and the person says the film is good, then yeah, I mean, this won't go well. I know that it's a different mindset. But let's say if you find a person who is very much aligned with your personalities, and the person says, you know what, you will like it, you should watch it. So that becomes a kind of a bias that generates a kind of an influence on you. But that's an influence that you are making as a well-informed person, right? So it's not that you see the larger amount of posts showing that, hey, you know what, this is a big one, you should go for it or something like that. And that's also one thing that is making Yapt a very unique in itself. That whole process of that social bias that you are being influenced is a healthy one, because the choice that you're making is coming out of an information, and it's an informed choice by yourself.
Bias is a good thing. Like
Yes.
social bias, it helps us determine what is good for the society, like what is something that is wrong as a society, right? Like,
Right.
so when we look at humanity, there is no right or wrong. We just create this value system for ourselves for a
Yes.
overall well-being of the society, right? But I think that everyone's bias should be there, and we look at everyone's bias and then we take an informed decision, right? The thing with social media is they're not a they're not an entity whose primary motive is for betterment of people. Like, they're not here
Yeah.
to do social service. So social media itself has a bias, and that bias is being rubbed on. I think that Facebook or Instagram, they, like, the main problem is that in certain countries they need permissions from the government, right? And they are in bed with certain government in certain countries, and they help a political party's agenda promote over social media, right? Like, I think that is a problem. Like, you
Are its own customers, like are its
yeah
own customers, maybe not government entities, maybe people, maybe vested interest. There was a small Twitter conversation between two influential people. I think it's Sri Krishnan and Anwar, these based US based investor cycles. They said something very important, and every decision taken by the network is for the betterment of the network rather than for the users. See, it might look like, hey, you know what, we are launching this feature today. You might see an advertisement from social media networks or any hey, we launched this particular feature. Now if you look at it, that feature was, if you look at it and go to the nuts and bolts of that feature, there will be somewhere a bottom line that says that, you know what, launching this feature will give us this much of revenue, and it will help us to build from go from X to Y. That's the bottom line in which the decision has been made. It's not that, you know what, this is, forget about financial, this is going to make a huge benefit for our users. That's never the story. The story is that, you know what, this will bring us X amount of users, and X amount of users will translate to X amount of Y amount of dollars. So at the end of the day, that every decision taken by the network boils down to how it will help the network, not the users. So it's a very simple but yet very powerful statement, which is completely hidden from the users. You will always see a statement that, hey, what, this new feature is launched, this new payment gateway is launched, or this new specific capability is launched, this plan is launched. But at the end of the day, that's the bottom line. The bottom line is that it is expected to bring X amount of revenue to the network, and that's something that is not visible to any of us. Uh, I'm going by the thought what Yapt, one very specific product decision that I have taken in building Yapt is that I took this point in an exact opposite way. I tried to do it from the very starting point of Yapt. I took decisions based on not what is being done today, but what is the best for us and what is the best for the users in the longer stretch. Be it the content ownership aspects, be it the nooks and the humanities that we are trying to that is a pillar stone for Yapt. And every product decision is based on simple fact that what do we do in real life and how it is going to transform the vision into a bigger statement. Even our marketing principles are also on the same lines. We never wanted to go into a typical social network product marketing, which is based on bots and try to take the content from different places and bombard the platform with entertainment content and push it out as much as you can. Show the users that you know what we are growing phenomenally, which is very much most of that growth is fake in most of the network. So from the very fundamental aspects of how I built the app to how I'm going to market it, the kind of users, it's based on a very simple fact that what is best for the users, what it will make right for users. And I believe that by giving back the control to the users, the platform will be more successful in the next 2 decades rather than trying to be a control of it, right? People have been asking, so one of the aspects of free speeches, there is a lot of question about free speeches coming up with better acquisitions as well. I'm just trying to connect the bias dot with that as well. When we talk about free speech, one of the reasons why the network allow, see, how will the network grow? Then the network grows when most of the people have lots of conversations on the platform. Correct? Let's say you are in a crowd, small crowd. You have a small set of people and you are talking to, let's say 50 people, you are talking about it. At some point of time, you see that things are not going a bit well. There is difference of opinion and there is a challenge that comes up. So as a natural human beings that we are, we'll try to do is that, you know what, let's move apart, agree to disagree, and let's try to go in your path. You know what, let's try to come in a amicable solution. One of the person pops up and says, you know what, guys, you are right, you are wrong, now let's try to solve it out. That's the most human social network, right? That's how human real life social network. Now translate the situation into an online social network. These conversations are the fuel for the network. The more number of people that are involved in the network in this conversation fuels more content, fuels more network growth, fuels more growth for the with respect to financials or with respect to user base. Correct. So the evolution of the free speech is that the networks, even though they had the capability to implement frameworks to bring a harmony in the social network, the first important thing that they did was to ensure that this goes in the way they that can help the network to grow. Now when it goes out of the hand, no, people will say, no, what, you know what, this is what it is, these people will be banned, but there are effective frameworks that you could have put in the very first place of the network growth itself, so that these situations could not have occurred, which happens in real life. That's what we do in here. That's how humans have grown. Now, taking that concept of real life harmony based social network is what Yapt is about as well. We brought in the concept of Nook. A Nook is a specific personality of a person. Now, in real life, when we try to converse or have a social conversation with a person, it's impossible to accept a person as a whole, isn't it? It's not possible. Every person has diverse personalities, and when you try to converse with the person, you pick and choose which personality you want to converse with. Let's say the person is having a different political opinions, but you like the movie personality of this person. He does a tremendous and a wonderful movie analysis, and you are in love with movies. You close the conversation with the person with respect to movies. You don't jump into the political conversation with the person, right? Because you have a difference there. The same is with sports. The same is with the other personalities of the person. If the person is highly technical and you want to inverse in a subject matter relationship with them, You don't try to have a conversation about what tea you had in the morning or what bread you had in the afternoon and how it tasted. Simple, right? That's how the social conversations in real life are more healthy and harmonious. This kind of partitioning is very much possible in the current social networks, but it is not done because the moment they try to do it, the conversations might get limited, which will not help them to grow. It's very good for the network for you to have a fight or a conversation based on an argument with another person rather than saying that, hey, you know what, this is nice, okay, this is also nice, and that's where the conversation ends. But it's more profitable for the network. Let's say you want to get engaged with a person who is opposite to your opinion, and that goes into hundreds of messages and try to incite something into the network. So in YAP, we ensure that people are able to express themselves in their personalities. And we call it as a nook. Every person has multiple personalities, and this is where YAP makes a real difference. You don't connect to a person in YAP. We connect to a personality in YAP. So let's say you have a UI UX designer, you have that personality, and you have this amazing personality about being social and creating podcasts. That's one of your personalities. And I'm sure there are other points which you are not able to put in the network. But some people would love to know about your podcast experience. How have you built this podcast from scratch? How you are growing, what your vision towards it. As a UI designer, people would like to know about your UI design skills. That's one another personality of yourself. Maybe you have a very different personality about your political opinions or your family life. And each personality is your relatives maybe not be connected to your podcast personality, but they would love to know your family updates, how you're going through it. And the people who are connected to your podcast doesn't need to know about your family updates or your UI design thought process that you're going through, right? Or your specific political opinion about what's happening in the country, or your choices that you made in your selecting your cricket team, right? These are different personalities of us, and people are amicably connecting to the personality that they need and that they love, and leaving the rest of them in real life social, and which is becoming very problem with current social. And that's where YAP comes into the picture. We created that efficient personalities based network. In sense, we look at YAP as not as a social networking of people. No, we look at it as a social networking of personalities, of human personas. A persona of mine, which is of a fitness, or which is of a movie, or which is of politics, or which is of cricket, or which is of a sport, can effectively converse and connect to a personality of yours of the same area. You don't need to be part of a group. You don't need to be part of a community. You don't need to be part of a subgroup, subreddit, or a list to express your political opinions, to express your choices of podcast, or even express your choices of UI. You still are a human and you have individuality there. And that's what MOOCs is about. So
It makes
I
sense,
believe that, yeah, I believe that the future of social network is not to incite, but to accommodate, but to let people grow in a harmonious way. Yeah. And for that, you need to have a different mindset, different culture, different capabilities from scratch. You can't get into the network because you already grow a network in that culture. You have to bring a new culture to it. And that's what YAP is about. So from a YAP at a high level, we want to bring a social networking experience which is completely different and which is more individual focused and human focused and persona focused, and a technical experience which tries to solve the problems of social dilemma, the problems of content ownership, the problems of ads related problems, the problems of feeds being influential, the lack of choices that we have. So in overall, like I started the podcast with, YAP is not built out of an accident. Most of the social networkings are currently built out of an accident. Even TikTok, the ByteDance took a very simple dub smash kind of a platform, and they were effectively be able to convert it into very strong algorithm that they have and able to market it properly. Today, the user acquisition cost of TikTok is also very high. Facebook accidental evaluation, a simple app which was supposed to tell which woman is hot, transformed into a platform. Instagram, which was supposed to be a platform for photographers to make the filters and applicable for it, transformed into a platform which wants to show the world always in a beautiful and harmonious way. right? So this is another thing as well. One of the creators told me is that in Instagram, what we are not what we are, can never be, because Instagram, if you open it, every person has to be beautiful and happy all the time. This is the basic crux of Instagram. But in reality, how many people are like that in every part of the time? No, they are not. Which means that they are successful. They are either pretending what they are not, or they are successfully able to hide what they want to show, but they can't show. So when we talk to our content creators and people, we tell them, guys, you are doing fantastic, phenomenal job in Instagram. That's fine, but there is something of yourself which you can't be on Instagram, which you can't be on the other platform. Now bring that on here. Be what you are. Be in real life what you are. Be what your personality is in here. You can successfully create your personality and identity for yourself, and able to provide privacy policies to it. You can make private, you can make public, you can make premium, and be able to manage, look at yourself as a whole, not in individual parts in other networks. So the objective of YAP is to build a new state of social, which brings that real life social, the best of real life socials into the social network. At the same time, answer the social dilemma with all the technical possibilities that we have. So, that's what we are trying to do in answering that bias problems, in answering that feed problems, in answering that social harmony, free speech problems, etc. Today, if you want to connect to a network, and if you want to connect to a person, and because you like that person's knowledge in some area, but then you see that the tweets are coming in which are of a different political opinion, you get disconnected to it. Now with Yap, you can isolate these two personalities. You can connect to that very specific personality of the person which you like, and completely ignore the rest of the personalities that you are not interested in. That brings a harmony to your network, right? That brings that anxieties down, that brings that social anxiety down, that brings a better connection between the people. So that's what we hope to do in the next one decade, where we want to see a social network that helps the people rather than that helps the network itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that this is a start of a snowball effect, and I think that was my agenda as well with this podcast with you, was that like people need to be aware of the problem that there are, right? So first thing was the who owns your content, and they know more about, like, with your content they curate a personality and they sell ads to that personality, right? So that content ownership, and could be the second one is creating bias, and they throw content at you which you know, sorry, which they know that you're gonna like and which is aligned with your values. So you keep looking at the content and it just reaffirms your already created belief. It doesn't challenge it, because even the problem with free speech is there is this concept of gender fluidity where people say that gender is a social construct and there is no such thing as male and female, right? Like there's so many, like a zillion different genders coming out right now, and all the people who say that men and women are different and they do have their differences, who keep saying this point, they are being banned from Twitter. And how
Right.
is this a free speech? Like, see, who cares if men and women are different or men and women are same? Let's say, like, people can have whatever opinion that they have, but you always need to have a challenging opinion. Like, if I believe one thing is right, and if someone else says something else is right, in the in the process of explaining each other's perspective and understanding each other's perspective, a third perspective will be created, or at least people can create their own perspectives. Like when you stop the flow of information from the other perspective and you keep like throwing them what they believe, you're just creating a generation of narcissists who believe that what they think is right, and people who believe people who think or believe otherwise, they're just the enemies. You just block them, you just throw them. So I think this is a main problem that is being created from the like bias. So currently a trial is going on between two famous actors. One is like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, right? Like they,
Yes.
and this thing is going on, and I see very specifically that there is this Instagram page called Economic Times, and they keep posting about Amber Heard's assault, like Johnny Depp, whatever assault he has done and whatever she has said in the court, they keep posting about that. And I read this comment that why is Economic Times posting just about Amber Heard and like and making their case, right? So that is one aspect, and there is other aspect that came about where Amber Heard fired their PR team and she want
Right.
to hire new PR team. And then I started thinking like, why? There is a feud happening between two things that is being fueled by PR teams. Like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, they both have their PR team who are trying to push that, Amber Heard is innocent.
Their own agenda.
Johnny Depp is the villain, and Johnny Depp's PR team is like Johnny Depp is the innocent guy, and this like Amber Heard is the villain. And I feel like maybe Amber Heard's team wanted Economics Time to post this, or maybe they paid them. Like who knows, like anything can happen. But people who are viewing at it, if they see in a scroll 10 different posts which says Amber Heard is innocent, your opinion is created that Amber Heard is innocent. If 10 different
Exactly.
posts says Johnny Depp is innocent, you're gonna be like Johnny Depp is innocent. I just want people to be aware that they are being influenced by social media and their bias is being created. Even I'm a victim of it. Like even I so many different biases are being created in me which I might not even be conscious about. So my whole point of saying this is that just be mindful that there is a possibility of this bias being created. So it's high time where we stop focusing on entertainment and we start focusing on mindfulness. Like even entertainment should be a choice, it should not be a compulsion. I think with Instagram, that constant scroll, right, like that has become a fidget spinner. Like when people are in stress, they just want to go open Instagram and they just want to keep scrolling. Like rather than psychology, there's this physical aspect to it as well. So don't just mindlessly consume entertainment, be mindful about it, and entertainment should be your choice. Sometimes I don't know if you have been through this, where like sometimes I just open Instagram, I'm just scrolling through the reels, I want to stop watching it, but I still keep doing it.
So, since you brought it, I have to. I mean, this is still a feature that we are designing, and this is one of the core aspects of the app. I just want to reveal it right now because you brought a very important concept there. The feeds. See, in a social network, two things, and first thing is that we post the content, right? And Yapt in its current stage provides a choice to the people on where that content goes by bringing your own storage, and Yapt managed content storage for you. What about the other aspect of the feeds, which is actually the most influential part of it? Now, imagine the situation. There are possibly a team of 50 or 60 or maximum of 100 sitting in Instagram headquarters, or Facebook headquarters, or TikTok headquarters, deciding that, you know what, I want to tweak this simple parameter from point 0.5 to point 0.6 for this country in this geography. And that phenomenal change will result in 20 or 30 or 40% of increase in entertainment content for a specific geography. And we remember, imagine the power, imagine the change it might impact. So what is the app going to do about it? Right. So we brought a vision there, and we what can we do to ensure that people have choices there? Like you said, choice is a very important word. Choice. If people ask me in one word, describe Yap for us, I will say that choice. Yap is a platform that provides choice to the people. Today, you scroll down to the Instagram feeds continuously because apart from scrolling down, what else do you have? You have absolutely zero choice there, right? There is nothing that you can do about it. Being social is something that you want to achieve, and you are in a train station, you are running around, you walking around, you have this 15 20 minutes break, phone is in your hand. Apart from scrolling that and looking at what they are offering you, what those engineers are offering you, there is no choice for you, right? There's absolutely no choice for you. Now, what choice does Yapt is going to offer in the next couple of months of development is that I will not delve into more technical details about it, but I will just give you how the user experience will be. When you open the app, you can select an algorithm and say this is the algorithm that will be responsible for my feed. And this algorithm, if you are technical enough, you could build it by yourself, or you could buy that algorithm from people whom you have trusted or people who are trusted by others, right? So in a list of algorithm, you will say this algorithm for me for this month. Now, what does this algorithm offer you? This algorithm offers you that, you know what, 50% of my feed should be completely about the engineering upgrades or technical updates or or how the best, what is the best of podcasts that are happening in this world today. The rest 30%, because I'm a cricket fan, you know what, I want all the updates about IPL for 30%. And you know what, the rest of the 20% is all about the latest updates that are happening in the country. I want to know what's happening on the politics side. What are the top news headlines in this 20%? So phenomenally, you can control everything that you can do on your app, on your feed, using this next generation of marketplace for feed algorithms that we're talking about. Elon today talks about open sourcing Twitter algorithm, but think better, think more. Open sourcing will not help much. I mean, it will help. So open, for me, open source from an algorithm and running it with 50 or 60 engineers has a very minor impact. As a traditional user like you or myself, okay, it's open source. So what does it mean? I know that there are a bunch of people who are working there who will say that this algorithm is good, this algorithm is bad. There is this part of open source which might be good, there is this part of open source which might be bad. But at the end of the day, for you, it doesn't make any difference. All you know is that there's something that is coming onto you. Yes, maybe there is some kind of a quorum which says that what is good and what is bad about this algorithm. But at the end of the day, you have zero control on it. So what I want to do is to bring the choice back to the people. There are hundreds of developers who are smart enough across the world to run their own algorithms for themselves. They are able to decide. Now take that knowledge. You will have a marketplace for an algorithm and you say, this feed algorithm is responsible for generating this whole feed for me. And that makes you a better choice. That makes you a person who has that control back and has a choice to what you want to see. Today, you have zero choice towards it. And tomorrow with the app, you will have 100% choice towards it. So we are taking the vision of Yap from how do we solve the bias and the unnecessary social anxieties we have in social, to how do we solve the content ownership and how to solve the content, reliable content for yourself, to what you see on the network. So that's the whole vision of Yap. That's why I don't feel Yap is, when people say, oh, at another social network. No, I'm not. I'm saying that it's not an another social network. It's a social network that is trying to build a phenomenal change in the next couple of decades, next couple of years. Now, the success is a different aspect of it, but what we are trying to
It's a
do is a very,
pursuit.
we are pursuing that. You are right. We are pursuing that vision. We are pursuing to make a difference, and only time will tell what it can grow to. But we are very confident about the vision, and I think that makes a lot of difference on what we are planning to do and how the product transformed. Yeah.
Yeah. What a beautiful way to end this podcast, man. Like, I feel like it's a pursuit of making a difference, right? Like, I think that's what this podcast is all about as well. And also, I think every single person should always be in a pursuit of making a difference better, in the pursuit of getting better, doing better for themselves. So I feel like I've recorded so many podcasts, and this podcast is definitely, it has hit a 1 hour mark, and it's more than an hour that we've been talking. And like, I've never felt like this conversation could go on for forever, like, I feel this conversation can go on forever. Like, every podcast, I could always feel every time it hit an hour mark, and I feel for the first time I didn't feel like the time passed, like it just passed so quickly, and this conversation was so engaging. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Sankarshan. I mean, it's see, building the platform like this is a big challenge. The biggest challenge of building this platform is to find the people to talk about it, and trying to have this kind of a healthy conversation with you, and trying to put my vision onto the point here with so much of synchronization across the problems. And you brought in some amazing concepts of how the psychology of the people are, what are they looking at, what is, how is it, especially the challenges are unknown to the people. And that's an important, very important point for us to look at the future. All I want to say is that I don't want, the 2 decades of social has grown in a very inorganic way, right? A small phenomena became a huge big bang, and it started becoming a huge financial hub, and it started changing a lot of stuff of what we are doing and how it's influencing our world. Now, what I believe is that the next decade, we shouldn't go with this kind of approach. We should take our next generations, when we talk about 2035, 2040, we should have networks which are powerful yet accommodating and yet harmonious and yet giving the control back to the people. And that's what, yeah, yapt is about. And I can really feel so energized after this conversation. I'm very happy with, I'm very happy with the way the weekend has gone through till now, and that it's, you played a very critical role to it. We are in the next week, we are going to launch a very important feature that the people have asked, which is an album feature. We're almost there. I got the recent updates from my team, and it looks very nice. And hopefully my next set of users will like it as well. So I was happy with what's going on there, and this podcast has made a lot of difference to the weekend. It's an
Hey,
absolutely
man.
pleasure talking to you, Sankarshan.
Thank you for saying that. Good luck to you. I'm sure we will have you back onto the podcast, and we can have more conversation about how it has been progressed. So I'm gonna give links to Yap and your socials in the description. So if people want to connect with you, if they want to have chat, then they can. And if for sure they can check Yap as well. So I am definitely having you back sometime in the future, because it's a never ending conversation, and I feel like there are so many things that I can talk about. So yes, thank you, and
Thank you so
hope to
much.
have you again. Yes,
Thank you,
thank
and
you.
thanks to all your users, all your people who are listening to this podcast. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it, and hope to get connected more, learn from you more. And we are starting in a we are in a very very early start. And any of the feedback that comes from any people in any corner is a big value proposition to us. And I would absolutely love talking to people about this. I can't stop talking about people. So yeah, so thank you
Yes,
so much. Thanks for your time, Sankarshan, a lot. And hopefully your users would have enjoyed this podcast. Users would love this conversation. Thank you.
thank you.
A Sankarshan Joshi trip.